Hello and welcome back to yet another Geek Show where, let's face it, we're done. We aren't doing this anymore for the rest of the year. I'm your host, Alex Ecker.
I'm your host, Dalton Munnell. Oh man, we have to come back.
Josh Keir.
Yeah, well, what we're gonna do you want to go a little bit behind the scenes with me here, Dalton? And Josh?
Let's go behind the scenes, boys.
Yeah.
Alright, so, long story short, we're gonna be taking a break from this episode on until sometime soon. But mainly what we want to do is we have tons of projects in the works right now, and we kind of need the extra time away from the podcast. The podcast is still going to be going up. We're going to be finishing up our spotlights of movies that Dalton and I have started. Then from there, we're working. Dalton and I have been independently working on how many albums now, Dalton?
7.
7?
3 albums.
3? Okay, yeah, 3. I suppose we're working on 3. It's 3 today, at least in my heart. So we just need the extra time to make sure we at least get one of those albums out before the end of the year. Hopefully, we're not setting anything in stone. It might be at the beginning of next year. It might be 5 years from now. You never know. The podcast will be on hiatus for 5 years.
I hope it's not next year, because I wrote one of these albums like 7 years ago.
Right. But with that in mind, don't forget about us. We ain't gonna be dead. We'll still be here, just not like concurrent.
Yeah. So that, and we're gonna try to take this time to maybe retool the show a little, see what we can do to improve it, both the show itself and our process. So maybe this is a good time to tell us why you don't like the show. Tell us why people aren't listening. So that we can fix that now during this break.
Yeah, we want to know what we can do for our country and not what our country can do for us.
Maybe they just actually really hate our constant self-deprecating humor.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I would love to come back to dozens of messages from friends saying, you guys really sell yourselves short. You got a great thing going here. You're all amazing conversators and have soothing, attractive voices, and y'all should just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, you know what? Don't tell
like
us what
that.
to improve. Just go with that. That's good.
Yeah,
just tell me.
Shower me with praise, because I need it desperately. Please,
Yeah, because especially
give me
because this is
validation.
Josh's last episode.
We don't want to pay for benefits, Josh.
No, we don't, man.
I was getting benefits?
No, you weren't.
All right, guys.
Oh, hey, one last thing. There's a chance that since
7
this
last
is going,
things.
we forgot to mention that the yet another Let's Play stuff is going to be affected in this as well. However, we're going to try and set up some live streaming stuff in the near future as well. So, if you're a fan of that and happen to come across this episode, don't worry. There's still going to be stuff on YouTube. Probably just me, so get used to me.
Yeah, so speaking of what just happened right there, part of the retooling will definitely be getting the show a little more organized and maybe jotting down some thoughts ahead of time so we don't jump around like that.
Yeah, so that way we're not flinging and flammering, Flergelin.
That said,
Clamoring.
onto some geeky discussions.
Straight Flergelin. Guys, I'm running a fever right now, come on.
All right, guys, I caught up on Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh.
Alex,
I have not done that yet.
You're not. Well, let me rephrase. I'm caught up with what's on Hulu. I don't know if there's any more after that.
I think I'm still a season behind what's on Hulu.
Oh, interesting.
Season 6 is the last one, right? On Hulu.
I think, honestly, I never paid attention to what season I was in. I just kind of told Hulu to play it, and one day I ran out of episodes.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't expect to pass you guys up on it, because you guys started quite a while before me.
You know what I really hate is when I go to my favorite podcast and then keep listening to it until it runs out of episodes too.
Oh, that's just the worst.
Oh,
Shame that hasn't happened to anyone listening to this show.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
okay.
I'm checking my Hulu right now. I actually have not watched any of season 6. I've watched
Whoa.
the first 5 seasons. So, first of all, what the fuck, Josh? And secondly, I got a lot of Brooklyn Nine-Nine to catch up on. So, tell me whether or not that's
Wow.
a good thing.
Wow. All right. So I'm not going to share like season by season thoughts because, like I said, I didn't even pay attention to what season I was in and was caught severely off guard when I ran out of episodes. And my thoughts on the show don't really change from season to season. I don't really think it gets any better or worse at any point in time. I mean, I think it has like a half a season of figuring out what it's doing, like most sitcoms do. But I think it figures it out pretty early, and then the quality stays pretty consistent from there.
Yeah. No, it's stayed consistently funny and consistently, I would say, self-aware.
Yeah, so that said, I guess I'm going to keep this to more general thoughts and just say that, I liked the show enough that I caught up and that I'm going to keep going when there is more episodes. But I don't love it, guys.
Ow.
In fact, I kind of watched it as a show that I would put on in the background when I just needed something happening because I didn't quite care enough to actually make sure I caught every minute of it. My wife and I were watching it together, but we would both occasionally watch one without the other because neither of us were real determined we needed to see the whole thing. It was just entertaining enough that I wanted to watch it, but didn't feel too bad about not putting all my attention into it. And maybe that's just a matter of like, it's funny, it's working for me on that level consistently, but it doesn't accomplish like making me care about a story and care about characters. And maybe not a lot of sitcoms do, but I don't know, that's where the show's sitting for me.
Honestly, I really enjoy the characters here. They have done a little bit of growth. Some of it, I like. Some of it was really good, and other parts of it, I'm just like, meh.
I mean, things happen. There's overarching narratives, which I like to see.
Is.
But it's just that when those things were happening, I didn't really care. It's the thing. Like, I like the characters because they're making me laugh, but I don't actually care what happens to the characters.
I think it's kind of maybe hard to get attached to the characters in that sense just because everything is so over the top and caricatured in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And I think that lends itself really well to the humor. I think the show's hilarious, and I like it very much for that reason. But I can definitely see where you're coming from. As there's some other shows like Community, for instance, that I got a lot more emotionally involved in, and I cared more about the story and the actual characters.
Yes.
Geez, I gotta stop myself in the middle of that sentence because when I'm talking about like over the top and caricatured characters and then referring to Community as like a better example of that, where the fuck is my mind going? But I don't know. Community had something, I guess, that Brooklyn Nine-Nine doesn't, that let me get more fully invested in the show. Granted, as for in my sitcoms, I don't necessarily crave emotional involvement.
Sure.
And so while I can definitely see that Brooklyn Nine-Nine is maybe lacking in that sense a little bit, it's never been enough for me to dislike the show.
Sure, I'm kind of critiquing it for not pulling off something that it's not really trying to do either. And so
Valid, yeah.
So it just depends on what criteria you want to judge it on. I suppose how fair it is to judge it on something it's not trying to do. That said, I watched this, earlier this year. I watched The Good Place, and I loved that, and I care what happens to the characters there. And I watched a lot of Superstore, which falls somewhere between these two.
Yeah.
I did like Superstore more than Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I care what happens in the characters there, but not nearly to the extent of The Good Place or Community, for that matter, or Arrested Development. But
what's really funny though that you guys brought up Community was that I loved everything until season 6, and I stopped watching at season 6 because it was boring.
Community seriously wavers in quality just due to behind the scenes production issues. People leaving.
Yeah, no, I can
After
definitely tell
season
that
3,
much.
I felt like the only season that was actually still of the same quality was season 5. Season 6 is better than season 4, but yeah, after the first 3 seasons, that show takes a nosedive in quality, and there was a ton of show drama that kind of led to it being the way that it was, and it's really disappointing because the first half of Community is my favorite show of all time.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really good. But yeah, something about season 6, like I kind of call it like the reflection period of the show. And like it was funny up until season 6 at least. Season 5 was probably one of the ones that seemed very much like the first like 3, but I'm okay if people go, yeah, I liked it up until season 6 and then I stopped. I'll be like, all right, cool, same.
Okay,
you know?
well, so that we stop just yelling the word season into our audience's ears, do you guys want to share your more general thoughts on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, like what it is that you do like about it?
So go ahead, Alex.
No, Josh, no, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay.
This is your last
the
time.
The first thing that leaps out at me that I really appreciate about Brooklyn Nine-Nine is that like everybody on the cast is hilarious. Just absolutely everybody. Like the cast is so strong. There's not a single character in like the main cast that I could say like, yeah, this character never makes me laugh. I think everybody's just consistently really funny, and they're all like really talented actors, and it's really impressive to me. There's usually a character in every show that I absolutely just cannot stand. And I don't think that I have a character like that in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Sure. I will say it took me a few episodes to get used to seeing Sandberg in a sitcom playing a character and not just like a quick skit. And it's it's weird because I like it and I like him, and the show did grow on me. But as I'm watching episode 1 or 2, I'm like, the first handful of episodes, I just keep thinking like he's a little too silly and over the top for me to buy. In that, like, maybe it's just because we're specifically looking at detective work, because he's doing like a real like sitcom stupid, but he's a detective, and the balance of being somehow really stupid and really smart at the same time struck me as odd. I mean, I got over it and just accepted the show as being pretty well heightened, but for the first few episodes, nobody else struck me as a heightened reality. It was just him being ridiculously silly. I don't know if anyone else has that.
No, I see it entirely. Like half the time I'm waiting for the canned laughter in the first 2 episodes. I
guess I had already kind of gotten some of those feelings out of the way. Have either of you ever seen Hot Rod?
Oh yeah,
which was the movie that he starred in. I don't know. I think I kind of got over being like, oh, this is Andy Samberg. I'm expecting like a 5-minute skit, and then it's going to be over. Yeah, sort of over the course of watching that movie.
I'm pretty sure we've talked about Hot Rod before. I haven't seen it, but I think we brought it up once before. And then we brought up Popstar, where I saw, where I loved Popstar, but he was still ultimately playing, an SNL Lonely Island character through that full-length movie.
He's too legit to quit, man.
Right.
And it's been a while since I've watched early Brooklyn Nine-Nine, so maybe in the earlier seasons he comes across as more of like a Lonely Island character than he does as later on in the show. It's been a while since I've seen the early episodes, so I'm a little bit fuzzy on what it's like in the beginning. Yeah,
no, that's fair. Now, the one thing that I really liked about this show is that there's diversity in the cast.
Oh, excellent.
Not to push, any sort of like political agenda either. It's nice to see that, a multifaceted cast, and they have their own unique things without it being about, ethnicity or sexual preference all the time.
So one of you brought this show up for the first time as an example to me of having a gay character and not making jokes out of it.
That was me.
And not making it a plot point, and he just is, and deal with it. And yes, that's handled wonderfully. Josh, you weren't in the last episode we recorded, but I suggested Euphoria on HBO for the same reason, because after I criticized Sabrina for handling their trans character really poorly, Euphoria handled it in exactly the way I was asking for. And yeah, I think Brooklyn Nine-Nine handles their gay character in exactly the way I was asking for.
I also just think it's hilarious that Captain Holt is in the, I guess, the trope sense of the term, the straight man of the group of ridiculous detectives, and he is the gay character. I think that's a little like subtle joke that somebody pointed out to me at one point, and I went, oh, that's clever. That's really clever.
Wow, it's just enough of a stretch that I'm not sure if it's intentional or not. I could take it or leave it.
I feel like it would be totally intentional, but I guess I could see if it was just a happy coincidence.
Speaking of Holt, he's my favorite character, not for that reason, but because they really, in episode 1, I was given a certain expectation of him, and they really dodged it and did something different because they introduced him as, just the straight man. And the first episode was him replacing the lieutenant, and then, getting down on Peralta. And you just kind of, it gives you a certain image of what kind of character he's going to be, because he's so straight-faced, just has this kind of grumpy look on him all the time, and it just looks like he's always going to be the not fun one there to ruin everyone's fun. And he doesn't end up ruining any fun. Actually, he has feelings and a personality and whatnot. He just has a monotone voice is all.
Right.
And so it's interesting because it's really just a way of talking. It's just the way he talks that in episode 1 you think, oh, he's going to be this type of character, and he's not at all. Like when he participates in all the heist episodes, he's just as fun as everyone else. He still experiences feelings. He doesn't want to ruin all the fun in the department. He just talks a little funny. So
yeah, I'll give you that. The way his jokes are sold in the show is actually one of my favorite parts of the show. There's I forget what happened in the scenario, but he's just sitting there completely dead, straight faced, and he says, "I've never been more devastated in my entire life." like that kind of shit. Where that is by far the funniest joke I've ever heard. Mm-hmm. It's just the dryness that makes the character so damn funny.
I am such a sucker for deadpan humor. So
yeah, me too.
Yeah. No, Holt's my favorite character as well.
Yeah, and that's not the kind of character you think he is in episode 1.
Right.
So, all right, but that about summarizes all my thoughts. You guys about done here?
Well, I have one thing that I think kind of pushes the show's envelope a little better, is the fact that there's tons of compartmentalization in it.
Okay.
Oh, hey, here's a serious issue. Nah, fuck it. Let's talk about something else. Especially with Andy Samberg's character.
Mm-hmm.
There's always some issue going on, but then they still keep it light.
Sure. Yeah, it definitely touches on real issues and figures out how to handle it well.
While still being funny. Yeah,
exactly.
The episode where Terry gets racially profiled is the first one that comes to mind, where it's it's a real serious topic, and the show even goes about asking the serious questions of Terry's even how do I talk to my kids about what happened to me. That could be a real downer episode, with subject matter like that, but I remember it being really funny.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I did respect about the show was that it didn't shy away from having more serious episode content sometimes, while still always remaining foremost a comedy.
Right, exactly. And I think that's what kind of keeps the show moving, if I'm being completely honest.
Right. All right, maybe you guys have improved my opinion on it a little bit, but it's still not The Good Place.
It is definitely not. Speaking of Good Place news, not to distract us too much, but I just looked it up. The next season starts in 2 days right now.
Oh, so I did not know that.
It starts this week.
I did not know that. Also, the next season is the final season.
It is, and I
say thank God.
Yeah,
that they're going to finish it before they ruin it.
End on a high note.
Yeah.
I wish
Mhm.
more shows would do this. Would say, hey, I only need this many seasons to tell my story, and I'm not going to drag things out. I'm going to tell the story, make the show as good as I can, and then just let it end.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really going to talk about this show, but I'm rewatching Breaking Bad right now, and yeah, it just occurs to me that wow, they let I'm sorry, I forget the creator of the show's name here, but they let him do exactly what he needed, and if anyone else had control over the show, they would have said, "Nah, stretch this into 10 seasons." And he says, "No, I need 5, and we're going to call it a day at that." A lot of networks could learn something from that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. Funny that we're talking about shows and shit today, because I've been watching 2.
That funny that we're talking about shows on a podcast where we talk about shows. All right, Alex.
Well, we've been talking a lot about video games. But there's a TV show. It's a drama. It's a medical drama. My wife really likes cop shows and medical shows. And I remember when I first moved in with her about 2 years ago. I fixed the TV and I turned it on to see if it was working. And the first show that came on was called The Resident, and it's a doctor show, kind of like House, and like has good character development and all this other stuff. And we've been hooked on it. I don't want to get into it too much, just because there's tons going on. There's tons of drama. The new season premieres tonight, Tuesday, and I'm really looking forward to watching it. I just wanted to start with the good one, because the second one, I know Dalton's gonna give me nothing but disappointed dad size.
You didn't say enough about that show yet to move on. What's special about it? Why is it good?
Sorry, I don't feel good. Maybe I need to go see the doctor in the
I
show.
can't put in the episode description we talked about The Resident if we fly by it in 20 seconds.
You just be like, yeah, Alex farted out The Resident. It's cool. Like,
all right.
Basically, it follows a few set of characters in this hospital. It starts off with a dude who graduated from Harvard, and he's getting his residency at this hospital in Atlanta, Georgia, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
He gets assigned a more experienced resident, and this guy basically tells him, "Do whatever I say, and you'll be fine."
Mm-hmm.
He was like a war medic in Iraq and Afghanistan, and like he's seen some shit. So like he in like the first episode, someone who ODs comes in, they go into like a seizure and then they die, and the new doctor guy is like giving CPR to the girl, and the older resident, Conrad is his name, but he tells the guy to stop doing CPR because it's been over 20 minutes where the brain has not had oxygen. And the guy refuses, and he brings back basically just a brainstem and not the person. So he kept the body living, but the mind is dead.
Okay.
And like he scolds him for it, like, I told you to follow everything I said, and blah 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 blah. And he's like, well, I'm not your slave, And then he turns around to him and says, here's the thing about medical school. He said, they'll teach you how to fix somebody, but they never teach you how much harm you can actually do to someone.
Well, I'm properly horrified. Thanks for that.
Yeah, it's a really good show, and it kind of, I don't know how accurate a lot of it is, but it feels fairly like, oh shit, this is really what goes on, kind of thing. It's a really good show. I seriously recommend it, especially since the 3rd season is just starting tonight. I'm actually looking forward to watching it.
All right, that was sufficient.
Yeah.
Now tell us about your bad show.
I started watching The Walking Dead again.
What?
Why would you do that?
Oh.
Because
at least you acknowledged it as the bad show.
It's I don't know, man. Like, it's one of those
Is it still a
things
controversial opinion for us to say The Walking Dead is bad?
No, even the people I know that still watch The Walking Dead pretty much only watch it out of sunk cost fallacy at this point. So
see, here's the thing. Like, I stopped on season 6, and out of nowhere,
you're
I
a
was
tougher
just like,
man than I.
Well, duh. No.
Thanks.
But hey, if this is the last episode, I'm gonna fucking bash every one of you. Anyways, no. Season 6 is actually not that bad. I mean, granted, for all the shit that it's gone through. I kind of only watch it like once in a blue moon. Like, scratch that. I maybe watch it like once every 2 years just to try and catch up until it's done. It's just one of those things where I have to finish it.
Sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, I still need to finish Breaking Bad.
Which is a phrase I love, but I've never heard applied to watching a bad TV show. I enjoy that. Breaking Bad is wonderful. You need to finish that, and you need to start all over and finish that before this movie comes out.
That's exactly what I intend to do, is I want to restart it from the beginning.
Yeah, it's better this time that I'm watching it. Not to jump away from The Walking Dead. So why is it particularly terrible where you're watching?
In The Walking Dead?
Yes.
There's something about the comic books kind of being a slight bit outlandish.
Okay.
Well, let's face it, the entire comic book is outlandish, and them trying to recreate it feels really fucking weird to me. Like,
wait, so in season 6, are they actually back to paying attention to the comics? Because they weren't paying it much mind when I quit.
They're in Alexandria and are just now introducing Negan into the show here.
Okay.
I haven't seen Ezekiel yet, who in the comic books has a fucking pet tiger.
It's funny,
I don't know if you forgot about
the
that.
show has been on long enough now that the show has caught up to and surpassed where the comic was when I stopped keeping up with the comic.
Yeah.
That's a strange feeling.
The show is kind of, I'm gonna assume probably around season 7 is probably where we both left off in the comic books. But I don't know, like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's kind of a train wreck for me. I'm like, okay, I know what's gonna happen. I just want to see if they can actually kind of pull it off to be like, yeah, I'll buy it, or no, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, for a show full of like Marvel fans and Star Wars fans and whatnot, I can't really discuss being outlandish as being a problem. But to me, the problem with the show is just that it's all filler, no killer.
That was definitely season 3, because that's where you left off, right?
Somewhere in 4.
I can't remember 4.
Somewhere in 4, but just like it's season 1 almost precisely matched the comic. Season 2, I enjoyed the story of, but they stretched it way too far. And then 3 and 4, I was like, man, these both really could have been 8 episodes.
Season 1 was my favorite. It kind of encapsulated everything that you would expect. No music, minimalistic sound, dark and gruesome, without necessarily feeling overkill and not unrealistic for that situation. Whereas where I'm at now, they're in a colony with a solar paneled living situation. They're growing plants, and like there was just a giant crater with like 50,000 zombies in it, and then they had to move them away, and then that failed. And you know what I mean? Like it is still dragging for sure. And I think season 9 was the final season.
I guess it's problematic that being a TV show, like the characters have to age in real time, approximately real time, so the show has to progress in approximately real time, and now you've stretched the limits of what will allow narratively from a post-apocalyptic zombie story, because like at this point, not that I have any idea where the TV show's story is at right now, but like if they're still stumbling upon new civilizations with 100 or so people in it, so they can go through the narrative again of getting into that little village and then accidentally letting the zombies in and destroying it and then finding another one. Like if that's still happening a decade into the post-apocalypse, like the apocalypse, not the post-apocalypse, I suppose. Like I'm not buying that anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not buying the freshly mowed lawns everywhere. I'm not buying the vehicles with fuel in them. If they're still doing that, I don't know. Maybe they've moved on to everyone being on horses for all I know.
Nope, there's still fuel. And how long has it been in the show? Because like they started it in like 08, 09.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming it has to progress in approximately real time. So if there's been 9 seasons, then approximately 9 years.
Let me bring this up real quick. You ever left gas in a lawnmower?
It's a bad idea.
How about you stop fucking using cars? Because the same thing's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I completely agree. Like, it's just stupid shit that doesn't make real sense, but in the first season made total sense.
Right.
Yeah, as time progresses, shit is only going to get worse.
Yeah, in the first season, it made sense that the lawns were mowed.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, for what it's worth, if I take away the realism that they tried to set as like a precedent, I feel a little better about it. But other than that, I don't know, man. It's like, yeah, I'm probably gonna end up, taking like the next 2 years to probably finish the show because I'm pretty sure season 9 was the final episode or episode season.
I guess if there were a show that were, let's say, like a competitor to this, but it was Marvel Zombies, which is a comic thing, I would end up letting that show get away with more because that show wouldn't have introduced itself as, hey, check out our particularly realistic take on the matter before we screw it up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
I would have accepted it as heightened to begin with.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that.
All right. That's
I'm done.
Yeah, I'm about done railing on old news. Josh, you got anything for us?
I actually have been watching something this past week too. In
you did have been having something?
Yeah.
Wow.
In preparation for the new season of this show, which I think is also starting to come out this week, I've been rewatching My Hero Academia.
When does it come out? Isn't it the 4th?
I thought it was in September, but if not, then
it's October.
Then it's like first week of October then. Okay. At any rate, I've been trying to get through all of it before the season starts to kind of like get a refresher because I haven't watched it since I originally binged it all right around the time season 3 was coming out last year or the year before. How long has it been since season 3 ended? Has it been a year?
Yeah, just about.
Okay. Well, at any rate, I've been just trying to refresh myself, and I'm in the middle of season 2 right now, like right after the sports festival arc. I forgot about how much I friggin' love this show, you guys. It's so good.
It's so good.
It is so good.
Yeah, I feel like having like binge watched a lot of it way too quickly, like it was mid season 3 when I got in on it. I feel like you end up missing stuff when you're trying to watch it all real quickly, and yeah, I'm interested in going back and starting over.
Yeah, there were definitely little things that happened that I had completely forgotten about, so it's been really fun watching the show again. And I can't remember, I can't believe how many good characters there are in this show, and Mineta.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll give you that.
Like, no, dude, he's awful. He's by far the worst thing about the show. Every time they make a joke about all the perverted shit that he does, I just wish that it had been screen time devoted to literally anything else. And it's never once been funny, and I just hate him and hope that he dies.
I think he's the trope of anime for this show.
Yeah, my first conversation about this show was with Alex because of how much I hated that character, and he was actually like holding the show back for me.
Yeah.
Like, I think I watched half a season, then I came to you, Alex, and I was like, man, I'm mostly loving this, but this fucking character.
Yeah, I remember that. That and your other complaint was that they had to explain everything instead of just showing you.
Yeah, just certain tropes that it did not manage to avoid. But like Josh said, the characters are so good that in this case, I've mostly gotten over the tropes, and they're still valid criticisms, but they're not really holding me back from loving the show.
It's amazing how you can have a character like Mineta, who's just horrible and has zero redeeming qualities, in the same show as Bakugo, who is like a masterfully written character. I don't know if he's my favorite character, but I think he's the most well done character in the entire show, if that makes sense. Like, you very easily could have made a character like Bakugo just be like Gary Oak, you know?
Yeah,
he's kind of like the Gary Oak of the show, but they develop him so well to the point where, like, yeah, he's still an asshole, but I understand why he does the things that he does. And the show does a really good job of like showing that like even though he's got a gruff exterior, like he does have redeeming like heroic qualities about him.
Mhm.
And it would have been so easy for the show to just make him break off halfway through, do the anime thing where where he breaks off and becomes a villain. And there's even a little mini arc where villains kidnap him because they're trying to convert him, and he goes,
and it doesn't happen.
And watching that the first time, I was thinking to myself, "Oh God, here we go. We're going off into Tropeville or whatever." And then Bakugo just goes like, "Are you fucking stupid? You brought me back to your hideout. I'm gonna kill all of you now."
Yeah, I actually during that same conversation, Alex, about Mineta, I also brought up Bakugo, and at the time, being partway through one season, I was saying, I can't stand that character either. He's such a trope. He's just an obnoxious. I might have compared him to Gary Oak, and then after a particular story arc where they really fleshed him out, I'm like, he's one of my favorites in anime now.
No, I would completely agree.
The one thing
I don't watch a whole lot of anime anymore, but Bakugo is amazing.
I read the manga too. I'm not super far ahead of the show because I kind of want to watch them read and watch in tandem.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly, when they first like introduced like the swamp monster, and like him and his friends are in the back alley, I think he was actually smoking cigarettes in the alleyway, which I'm kind of glad they got rid of because I don't know. I just feel like the character has a little more wholesome, heroic bit to him instead of looking like a bad guy.
Yeah, that would have felt a little tryhard.
Yeah, it's a little bit too edgy.
And I'm a little bit further than season 3 in the manga, and oh my god, I cannot wait to see what they do.
Interesting.
That's exactly what I've heard from my other friend who's up to date with the manga. He said, "I'm not going to spoil anything, but you got some good shit coming up." That's all he said.
Oh yeah.
So I'm excited to see whatever that is.
I read the first chapter or two of the manga, and then it kind of came to the conclusion, based on being that far, that the anime was way too precise of an adaptation for me to bother reading. Like, it's only worth it if you're just trying to get ahead. At least as far as I got, it doesn't really seem like there's any reason to do both.
There's little like tidbits about the characters like after each chapter, which is really nice to read. Like for example, Bakugo's character was in fact a completely different character before the show or the manga started, and he was actually going to be like Deku, more or less. I
mean, little editorial comments and stuff are nice and fun, but it seems like fundamentally, the story itself, it seemed like you were getting the same thing out of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah,
which has been true of most manga I've read, I suppose. Japan tends to stay pretty faithful in their adaptations up until the shows have to create some filler and then create an ending out of nowhere and ruin it. But generally speaking, at least at the start, they tend to stay pretty accurate. Like, I can't recommend reading the Death Note manga because the show's too close to it to bother.
Is it? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's not really worth it.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that said, are we done with My Hero?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just real hyped for season 4.
Oh, I know, man. I don't know. I don't know. The sickness is getting to me, and I'm trying to think of other stuff I've done.
All right.
This
well,
week.
I've got stuff while you're tripping over your own brain.
Cool.
I played Spyro Reignited. Specifically, just the first game so far.
Oh, awesome!
I
played that last year.
Game.
Yeah,
that was in our episode 0. I talked about me playing it.
Oh, did you? I forgot about that.
Yeah,
and so did the audience because we never released that.
Right.
Yeah. So this finally came out on Steam. And so I get to play it now. And this was actually really exciting for me because I never actually owned a copy myself, but I never managed to finish the original Spyro. And so it feels good to have finally done it. I have vague like childhood memories of the game where I don't think I ever owned it, but I know that like maybe I had a demo disc or maybe I had a cousin with a demo disc like in my like less than 10 years. And then somewhere in my preteens, I knew someone that had it, and we were playing through it together. And then the disc was too scratched up and ruined the game, like, very near the end, and I didn't get to finish it. And then 5 or 6 years back, a friend had it on PSN, and I was playing through it with them, but frankly couldn't handle the lack of depth perception you have from playing 3D games of the low resolution of that era. So yeah, I feel like I finally finished now, and it was... as far as I can tell, it seemed pretty dead on accurate, like the Crash Bandicoot remakes, to the point where I don't think there's any reason to go back to the original now. This is pretty definitive. I don't know if you guys feel the same way.
Well, I had never played the original Spyro for the PlayStation 1, so...
You brought that up in episode 0 as well.
Yeah, my experience has only been on the remake trilogy, but I will say that I really like it. I think I said this in episode 0, but having never played Spyro before, I somehow still felt nostalgic while I was playing it.
I was hoping you were going to bring that up because you did.
Yeah. I remember. I remembered saying that before, and it still holds true. And since then, I've played through like 3/4 of Spyro 2, and then got distracted and haven't finished it, but have every intention of going back and doing so. I had the same feeling with that game too. I think Spyro is just a real kind of microcosm of like game design from that era. Where when did the original games come out? Like late 90s, probably
97,
late 90s,
98?
Yeah, late 90s, early 2000s. Probably not 2000s. That's PlayStation 2 time.
Yeah,
mid to late 90s.
All within the 90s. Pretty early for 3D platforming.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
the game, just everything about the game is just fun.
Yeah,
the level design. Given the game mechanics that you're entering a level and it's not really about getting to the end of the level, it's about finding everything in the level. It just makes the design happen in such a way that it doesn't resemble any other games. Like even other collectathon games, it just doesn't really feel like.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, because other collectathon games from that era would, like, the levels would be a lot more wide and open-ended, and they give you like a very large space to explore. But Spyro's still very much like a level-based game, and you're given these, they're not quite linear levels, but most of them progress kind of linearly, unless you want to go find all the gems and all the other little things that you can find.
Yeah, you can see a precise beginning and end to the level, but instead of giving you a big wide area, it says find everything in a densely packed small area.
Yeah.
Which really works for me. And I don't know about you, Josh, but I actually ended up 100%ing it, which I don't do for other games, but I felt like I was playing this game wrong if I didn't.
I did the same thing with the first one, at least. Haven't 100%ed Riptos yet, but I probably will. But yeah. The fact that the levels themselves weren't that long, I guess, like none of the levels were overly huge, which made it not feel, I guess, tiring or tedious to comb over every inch of them looking for all the collectibles. In fact, I felt incentivized to.
Yeah, I just outright felt like I was playing the game wrong if I didn't do it, which is a feeling that for whatever reason I haven't had in any other games. I don't complete games just as a rule. I mean, when I got like my Xbox 360 a decade ago or however long ago, I thought, like, because of the achievement system, I was like, oh, I'm gonna complete all my games, and I did that for the first 4 or 5, and then I was like, this is stupid, let's never do that again. And as a rule, I don't, too. But for this game I had to.
You know, it's really funny that you brought up the Xbox thing, because I can quote you from that long ago. You know, $60 ain't bad for a year subscription to play online.
When I said that, I don't know if I really understood that online gaming was already a thing on PC and that it was free.
I don't think you did, but it was still funny now.
I just knew that WoW was a thing and it was subscription based. Yeah, today $2
you
is
compared
too
it
much.
to WoW. That was it. You compared it to WoW. You were like,
Yeah.
$60 a year ain't bad because it's like what, 15 a month for this game? What the fuck? Like,
yeah. Today I would say $2 is too much to be spending for online play, but it is what it is.
That was funny.
I hope Spyro 2 and 3 make me feel the same way that I have to complete them, but I've barely started 2, but I can tell that it's a much bigger game, so we'll see.
It's bigger, but it didn't feel bloated to me.
Right.
Like,
okay.
I don't know. I have a lot of love for the Banjo-Kazooie series, and like the first game I think is my favorite like 3D collectathon game of all time, but Banjo-Tooie to me felt overly bloated and ambitious, where they just kind of put increased the scale to the point that the worlds felt empty and tedious to navigate, as opposed to the first game where the worlds were open and there was a lot to navigate, but like the things that you were doing were tightly packed enough that you were always doing something fun and you were just spending minutes trudging to new locations to do a new thing. Not to get too off topic, but I felt that Spyro 2 was just more of the same, executed better, and not like too ambitious, or they didn't try to bloat up the game so much that kind of diluted what made the original fun.
Gotcha.
Right. All right. Hopefully I end up feeling the same way. Did you guys notice the options in this game to switch to the original soundtrack?
Yeah.
I did, but having not played the game before and thus having no nostalgia for the original soundtrack, I'd never really played around with it at all.
To be honest, I'm going to feel bad about saying this because the music is really beloved, I believe. But I spent a lot of time playing the game streaming to my laptop with the volume very quiet while my wife watched TV in the same room. And so I didn't really hear a lot of the music and didn't really care which version I was listening to. I will say that when I was hearing the audio and was sitting at my desktop properly appreciating the game at 1440p and high settings and actual speakers on, that I didn't really love the music. I mean, it suits the mood, but
well, there goes covering one of the songs from that game.
It's I don't know, it's not bad music. It suits the feel of the game. And I think, like, in terms of the world itself, the game has a really unique feel to it that I'm sure was hard to get right in music, but it's not music that I'm going to be listening to on its own outside of context.
No, it suits its purpose to kind of be just upbeat enough to keep you pushing through the levels. But, right, it's not anything overly memorable. I kind of feel the same way about Spyro's music as I do about the music in like the Crash Bandicoot games, where it's kind of the same thing, where it's like it's fun and it's upbeat, but it's not Final Fantasy.
With Crash, you kind of remember the style more than the songs.
Right.
You remember like the title music pretty clearly for Crash, and then not really anything past that. No one, there's going to be exceptions out there, but almost no one just decides to listen to Crash music, even if it does do a really good job suiting the game's vibe while you're playing.
Cat Icarus, we're looking at you.
Yeah, that as opposed to Final Fantasy music that I listen to constantly, and I've been listening to Celeste constantly since we played it.
Yeah, we even kind of disagree on that soundtrack, but that's neither here nor there.
So nobody goes back and listens to Parappa the Rapper soundtrack?
I'm listening to it right now.
You better be.
Yeah, of course.
What about Resident Evil Survivors soundtrack? That was good.
I listened to that at the same time in the other ear, actually.
In the other canal?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I call my ears. I'm glad you know me so well.
Well, I love you.
Oh, Jesus. All right. Either of you two got anything else?
I've got a sickness right now, and I'm getting down with it.
Oh, wow.
Oh no!
Wow. All right, I'm turning that up loud and putting some distortion on it, some reverb, and really having fun with that one before I post this.
Yeah, when we come back from hiatus, that's going to be our new intro music.
Yeah. No,
I'm just gonna cover down with the signal. You already said yes. That's a legally binding contract.
it's got to start with oh shit.
Do you feel that?
Oh my god, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. All right, thanks for listening, everyone. You will hear from us soon, but maybe not too soon. And we hope you enjoy the music when it comes out, or that you don't. That's fine too. I don't like it either.
Here's a sneak peek. Dalton, put it in right now.
That's your sneak peek.
That's
not what Alex wanted me to do, but it sounds a lot like that anyway.
Well, see ya. Till then, guys. Goodbye.
Next time.